Imagine receiving a wedding invitation from the woman who broke your heart, the woman who left you for a richer man. That was Gabriel's reality until one day he met a homeless girl who would turn everything upside down. But this is not just a story of revenge. It's a tale of buried secrets, shocking betrayals, and a truth that no one saw coming. How did a homeless woman at a lavish wedding expose the bride's darkest secret? Find out now. In the bustling city of Lagos, where money talked louder than love and status mattered more than character, there lived a successful businessman named Gabriel Thompson. He was 32 years old, owned 3 companies, and his name was whispered with respect in every business circle across Nigeria. Gabriel had worked like a slave to build his empire from absolutely nothing, and now he had everything: a mansion in Lekki, luxury cars, designer clothes, and a bank account that kept growing. Everything except the one thing that still haunted him. One humid Tuesday afternoon, Gabriel sat in his corner office on the 15th floor of his building in Victoria Island. The city stretched below him like a kingdom. His secretary, Mary, knocked softly and entered, holding a cream-colored envelope. "Sir, this came for you by special courier," she said, placing it on his mahogany desk. Gabriel picked up the envelope. It was heavy and expensive, the kind that cost more than most people earned in a week. He tore it open and pulled out the card inside. His jaw tightened as he read the elegant calligraphy. "Mr. Gabriel Thompson is cordially invited to celebrate the union of Miss Jessica Adaku Moore and Mr. Kenneth Chukwuemeka Okafor on Saturday, the 24th of June at 4 o'clock in the afternoon." Jessica, his Jessica. The woman he had loved with everything in him 3 years ago. The woman who had walked out of his life without looking back. Gabriel dropped the card on his desk, his hands trembling. Kenneth Okafor, a man born into wealth, who never worked a day in his life but had everything handed to him. "She wants to rub it in my face," Gabriel muttered. Gabriel picked up the invitation again. The memories came flooding back. 3 years ago, Jessica had packed her designer suitcases in their small Surulere apartment. Gabriel had just returned from a meeting, exhausted but hopeful. "Jessica? What's going on?" he had asked, seeing her bags. "I'm leaving, Gabriel," she had said, her voice cold. "What? What do you mean?" Jessica had laughed bitterly. "I'm leaving you for good." "But why? Did I do something wrong?" "You're broke, Gabriel. You're struggling. You're working yourself to death trying to build something that might never work. But the business is growing. Just give me time." "Time," Jessica had interrupted. "I don't have time to waste. I'm 27 years old. I want to live now, not when I'm old." "But I love you," Gabriel had whispered. Jessica had picked up her phone. A car horn honked outside. "Love doesn't pay bills, Gabriel. Love doesn't buy designer bags or take me to Dubai. Kenneth can give me everything today. Why should I struggle with you? You've been seeing someone else." Gabriel's voice had broken. "His name is Kenneth Okafor. Maybe you've heard of him. His family owns half of Victoria Island. Real wealth, Gabriel, not the fake dreams you keep selling." The car horn had honked again. "I have to go." "He doesn't like to wait." Jessica had grabbed her bags. "Jessica, please," Gabriel had begged. "Don't do this." Jessica had stopped at the door and turned. "Gabriel, you're a good man. You work hard, but that's not enough for me. I deserve better. If you walk out that door, don't ever come back." Jessica had smiled cruelly. "I won't need to." "Goodbye, Gabriel." She had walked out, and the door had closed with a soft click that sounded like the end of everything. Now, sitting in his office 3 years later, Gabriel stared at that wedding invitation. He had built everything he promised. He had the money, the success, and the respect. But Jessica was marrying someone else. That Thursday evening, Gabriel left work early and walked through Lagos streets to clear his head. Car horns blared, street vendors shouted, and the smell of suya filled the air. He was walking past a small beer parlor when he saw her. A young woman sat on the pavement, her back against the wall. Her clothes were torn and dirty, her hair was rough and matted. But what made Gabriel stop was her face. She wasn't begging, she wasn't crying. She just sat there, staring ahead with eyes that were clear, intelligent, and unbroken. Gabriel walked closer. "Excuse me." The woman looked up at him slowly. "Yes," What's your name? Hannah, she said simply. Gabriel paused. Can I ask you something? Hannah raised an eyebrow. Depends on what you're asking. Gabriel appreciated her caution. I need someone to accompany me to a wedding this Saturday. I'll pay you well. 200,000 naira. All you have to do is come with me, look presentable, and stay by my side. Hannah's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't gasp. That's a lot of money for just a wedding. What's the real reason? Gabriel was surprised by her directness. My ex-girlfriend is getting married. She left me for a richer man 3 years ago. I don't want to show up alone. Hannah studied his face carefully. So you want to use me to make her think you've moved on? Yes. I know it sounds petty. Then it doesn't sound petty, Hannah interrupted. It sounds human. They stood in silence for a moment. And after the wedding? Hannah asked. What happens to me? Gabriel hadn't thought that far. I'll pay you what I promised. And if you need help, a job, a place to stay, I'll do what I can. I don't need charity, Hannah said sharply. If you help me, it should be because you choose to, not because you pity me. Gabriel nodded. Fair enough. Hannah stood slowly. Despite her ragged appearance, she carried herself with dignity. I have one condition. What's that? After the wedding, you tell me the complete truth about why this matters so much. No lies, just truth. Gabriel extended his hand. Deal. Hannah shook it firmly. Then we have an agreement, Gabriel. How did you know my name? Hannah smiled slightly. You said it when you introduced yourself to your secretary on the phone earlier. I've been sitting here all day. I hear things. Gabriel was impressed. This woman was observant and intelligent. When can we start preparing? Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. I'll be here. As Gabriel walked away, he turned back once. Hannah was still watching him, her eyes holding something he couldn't quite read. That night, lying in his empty mansion, Gabriel thought about Hannah. There was something about her, the way she spoke, the way she carried herself, that suggested she hadn't always been homeless. Who was she really? What had happened to her? Gabriel fell asleep with those questions in his mind, not knowing that the answers would change everything. Friday morning came quickly. Gabriel woke up at dawn, his mind already racing with plans. He picked up his phone and called his driver, Johnson. Johnson, I need you to do something for me. Yes, sir, what is it? Go to that beer parlor on Broad Street. There's a young woman there named Hannah. She'll be sitting on the pavement. I need you to pick her up and bring her to my house. There was silence on the other end. Then Johnson spoke carefully. Sir, are you sure about this? A homeless person? Gabriel's voice was firm. Yes, I'm sure. And Johnson? Treat her with respect. She's not just some random person. She's my guest. Yes, sir. I'll go now. An hour later, Gabriel heard his car pull into the driveway. He walked to the front door and opened it. Johnson stepped out first, then opened the back door. Hannah emerged from the car slowly. Even in her torn clothes and dirty appearance, she moved with a strange Hannah. She looked around at Gabriel's mansion, the white walls, the manicured garden, the fountain in the front yard, and her face remained calm, composed. Welcome, Gabriel said, walking toward her. Thank you for coming. Hannah looked at him directly. Your driver didn't give me much choice. He was very insistent. Gabriel smiled apologetically. I'm sorry about that. I just thought you'd be more comfortable staying here before the wedding tomorrow. Comfortable, Hannah repeated, as if testing the word. I haven't been comfortable in a very long time. Gabriel led her inside. The entrance hall was massive, marble floors, high ceilings, and a crystal chandelier hanging above them, expensive paintings on the walls. Everything screamed wealth. Hannah walked slowly, looking at everything. She didn't touch anything, just observed quietly. Then she stopped in the middle of the living room and turned to Gabriel. This house is beautiful, she said softly, but it feels so empty, like a museum, like no one really lives here. Gabriel was struck by how accurately she had identified something he barely admitted to himself. You're right. I'm here alone most of the time. Why? Hannah asked simply. Gabriel paused. Because I've been so busy building my business, proving myself to the world, That I forgot to build a life. Hannah nodded slowly. That's sad. What's the point of having all this if there's no one to share it with? Before Gabriel could respond, his housekeeper appeared from the kitchen. Mrs. Adebayo was a plump woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. When she saw Hannah, her eyes widened with shock. "Sir," she exclaimed, "who is this?" "This is Hannah," Gabriel said firmly. "She's my guest for the weekend. Please prepare the main guest room for her. Make sure she has everything she needs, fresh towels, toiletries, and clean clothes if we have any that might fit." Mrs. Adebayo looked like she wanted to protest. She stared at Hannah's dirty clothes, her matted hair, and her bare feet. But she had worked for Gabriel long enough to know when his mind was made up. "Yes, sir," she said slowly. "Right away, sir." Gabriel turned to Hannah. "Mrs. Adebayo will show you to your room. You can take a bath, rest, and eat something. We'll go shopping tomorrow morning for everything you need." Hannah looked at him with those steady, intelligent eyes. "Thank you. You're being very kind to someone you barely know. Everyone deserves kindness," Gabriel replied. Mrs. Adebayo led Hannah upstairs. The guest room was large and beautiful, a king-sized bed with white sheets and fluffy pillows, its own bathroom with a large bathtub, and a balcony overlooking the garden. When Hannah saw the bed, she stopped walking. She stood in the doorway, staring at it, as if it might disappear if she blinked. "This is all for me?" she whispered. Mrs. Adebayo's expression softened despite her initial shock. "Yes, my dear, all for you. The bathroom is through that door. I'll bring you some towels and clothes in a few minutes." "Thank you," Hannah said quietly. When Mrs. Adebayo left, Hannah walked slowly to the bed. She sat down carefully on the edge, then ran her hand over the soft sheets. She touched the pillows gently, as if they were made of glass. Then suddenly, tears started falling down her cheeks. Silent tears that she didn't try to stop or hide. She sat there on that beautiful bed, in that beautiful room, and cried for everything she had lost, everything she had survived, and everything she thought she would never have again. 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days. That's how long it had been since she slept in a real bed. Since she felt safe. Since she felt human. Downstairs, Gabriel sat in his study, trying to review some business documents, but he couldn't concentrate. His mind kept drifting to Hannah, to the mystery of who she really was, to the pain he saw hidden in her eyes, to the strength she showed despite having nothing. His phone rang. It was his best friend Michael, calling from Abuja. "Hey man, how are you?" Michael greeted. "I'm okay," Gabriel replied. "How about you?" "I'm fine. But listen, I heard your ex-girlfriend Jessica is getting married this weekend. Is that true?" Gabriel's jaw tightened. "Yes, it's true." "What? And you didn't tell me. Man, how do you feel about this? That woman who left you when you had nothing, now she's marrying someone who was born rich." "I know everything, Michael." "So what are you going to do? Are you going to attend the wedding?" Gabriel was quiet for a moment. "Yes, I'm going, with a date." Michael laughed in surprise. "A date? Since when do you have a girlfriend? You never go anywhere except the office and home." "It's complicated. I'll explain later." If you say it's complicated, this woman must be special." "Okay, I'm waiting to hear the full story. But Gabriel, let me tell you something serious." "What?" "That Jessica, she's not worth all this stress you're putting yourself through. She left you because of money, right? Now you have more money than her new husband, and you're still thinking about her? Move on, my brother. Find a woman who will appreciate you." "I have moved on," Gabriel insisted. "You say you've moved on, but your heart is still carrying her burden." "I know you, Gabriel. This wedding invitation has hurt you." Gabriel couldn't lie to his best friend. "Yes, it hurts. Even after 3 years, it still hurts." "I understand, but don't go to that wedding and embarrass yourself. Just show your face, eat their food, and leave. Do you hear me?" "I hear you, Michael." After the call, Gabriel sat in silence. Was he making a mistake? Was this whole plan just going to reopen old wounds? Mrs. Adebayo interrupted his thoughts, knocking on the study door. "Sir, I need to talk to you about that girl." "What about her?" Mrs. Adebayo's face was concerned. "Sir, when I went back to give her extra towels, I heard her crying in the bathroom. Not soft crying, serious crying. The kind of crying that comes from someone who has suffered deeply. "Sir, what happened to her? Where did you find her?" Gabriel sighed. "She's been living on the streets, Mrs. Adebayo. She's homeless." Mrs. Adebayo's hand flew to her mouth. "Jesus, that beautiful girl. But sir, she doesn't look like a street person at all. The way she carries herself, the way she speaks, something serious has happened to that girl." "I know, I can see it too, but she hasn't told me her story yet." Mrs. Adebayo shook her head sadly. "Oh my. This Lagos, so many people with secret pain. I'll make special food for her. She needs to eat well. She's too thin. Thank you, Mrs. Adebayo." That evening, Mrs. Adebayo prepared a feast. Jollof rice with plenty of chicken, fried plantain, moi moi, fresh salad, and chilled Chapman to drink. She set the long dining table that could seat 12 people, but usually only seated Gabriel alone. When Hannah came downstairs for dinner, Gabriel almost didn't recognize her. She had bathed and washed her hair. Mrs. Adebayo had given her one of Gabriel's sister's old dresses that had been left in the guest room, a simple blue cotton dress that fit surprisingly well. Hannah's face, now clean, revealed high cheekbones, smooth dark skin, and eyes that were even more striking without the dirt and exhaustion. Gabriel stood up quickly when she entered. "Hannah, you look completely different." Hannah smiled slightly, a bit shy. "Different good or different bad?" "Different beautiful," Gabriel said honestly. A faint blush colored Hannah's cheeks. They sat down at opposite ends of the long table, and Mrs. Adebayo began serving food. Hannah stared at the plate in front of her, piled high with rice, chicken, plantain, as if she couldn't believe it was real. She picked up her fork slowly and took a small bite. Then another. Then she closed her eyes, savoring the taste. Gabriel watched her eat and realized she was eating slowly, not because she wasn't hungry, but because she was trying to make the experience last. They ate in silence for a few minutes, then Gabriel spoke. "Can I ask you something?" Hannah looked up. "You can ask. Doesn't mean I'll answer." Gabriel smiled at her directness. "How long have you been living on the streets?" Hannah put down her fork slowly. Her face became very still, very controlled. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but clear. 3 years. 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days. The precision of her answer shocked Gabriel. She had been counting. Every single day she had been counting. "That's very specific. When you're living in hell, you count every day you survive," Hannah said quietly. "And before that?" Hannah met his eyes across the long table. "You remember our agreement? After the wedding, I'll tell you everything. Let me keep that promise." Gabriel nodded, respecting her boundary. "Okay, then let me tell you about Jessica." For the next hour, Gabriel told Hannah his complete story. How he met Jessica 5 years ago at a business conference. How she was charming and beautiful and made him believe they could build something together. How he worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week, sacrificing everything to build his business. "I promised her the world," Gabriel said. "I told her if she just waited, if she was just patient, we'd have everything. A big house, nice cars, vacations abroad, everything she wanted." "But she didn't want to wait," Hannah said softly. "No, she met Kenneth at some society party. He had everything I was working toward, but he was born with it. He didn't have to work for anything. And Jessica looked at what he had versus what I was still building, and she made her choice. That must have destroyed you." Gabriel's voice was bitter. "It did. For months after she left, I couldn't function. I'd wake up expecting her to be there. I'd come home and still call out her name. It took me a year to accept she was really gone." Hannah reached across the table and touched his hand gently. The simple gesture sent warmth through Gabriel's chest. "Her leaving had nothing to do with your worth, Gabrielle. It had everything to do with hers. A woman who truly loved you would have built the empire with you, not waited for it to be finished before showing up." Gabriel looked at Hannah, surprised by her wisdom. "Thank you, I needed to hear that." They finished dinner and moved to the living room, continuing to talk. Gabriel told her about growing up poor in Ajagunle, watching his parents struggle, vowing he would never be poor when he grew up. Hannah listened without judging, without pitying, just understanding. "You should be proud of yourself," Hannah said. Building something from nothing takes real strength. Thank you, Gabriel replied. Then carefully he asked, and you? What did you do before things changed? Hannah's face shuttered again. After the wedding. I promise I'll tell you everything after the wedding. Around midnight, Hannah stood up to leave. I should sleep. Big day tomorrow. Gabriel walked her to the staircase. Hannah, she turned back. Yes? Thank you for listening, for being here, for giving me a chance to do something good. Hannah smiled warmly. Thank you for seeing me when the whole world looked away. As she walked upstairs, Gabriel watched her go and felt something shift in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. My sweet family, before we continue, I want to know something personal about you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, maybe a friend, a partner, or even family? How did you handle it? Did you get your revenge, or did you just move on? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know your experience. You're not alone in this. Saturday morning arrived with bright sunshine streaming through the windows. Gabriel woke up early, his stomach tight with nerves. Today was the day, Jessica's wedding, the day he had been both dreading and anticipating. He showered carefully, shaved, and put on his best suit, a navy blue Tom Ford 3-piece that had cost him almost £500,000. Crisp white shirt, silk tie, Italian leather shoes, polished to perfection. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. 3 years ago, he couldn't afford a suit like this. Now he owned 20 of them. Around noon, Gabriel knocked on Hannah's door. Hannah, are you ready? The door opened slowly, and Gabriel's breath caught in his throat. Hannah stood there transformed. She wore the black gown they had bought the day before. Elegant, flowing, timeless. Her hair had been styled in soft waves that framed her face perfectly. The makeup was subtle but enhanced her natural beauty, her high cheekbones, her full lips, her striking eyes. She wore simple diamond earrings that caught the light, and she carried a small silver clutch bag. But it wasn't just her appearance, it was the way she carried herself. Her posture was straight, her shoulders back, her chin lifted. She looked like she belonged in a palace, like she had been born to wear gowns and attend high society events. Gabriel stared at her, completely speechless. Hannah looked at him with a slight smile. Will this do? Gabriel finally found his voice. Hannah, you look absolutely incredible, stunning. I don't even have words. Hannah's smile widened a bit. You don't look bad yourself, Gabriel Thompson. They drove to the wedding venue in Gabriel's black Mercedes S-Class. The Okafor family estate in Ikoyi was legendary, a massive compound that took up an entire block, with high walls, security gates, and manicured gardens that looked like something from a magazine. As they approached the entrance, Gabriel saw the other guests arriving. Range Rovers, Mercedes-Benzes, Bentleys, even a Rolls-Royce. Men in expensive suits, women in designer gowns dripping with jewelry. This was Lagos high society, old money, new money, all the money. The estate entrance was decorated with thousands of white roses and gold ribbons. A red carpet led from the parking area to the main hall. Professional photographers lined both sides, taking pictures of arriving guests. Gabriel pulled up and a valet rushed to open his door. Then another valet opened Hannah's door. As she stepped out of the car, Gabriel watched the reactions around them. Heads turned immediately, conversations stopped mid-sentence. People stared, whispered, pointed. Who is that woman? Is that Gabriel Thompson? I've never seen her before. She's absolutely stunning. Where did he find her? She looks like royalty. Gabriel walked around the car and offered Hannah his arm. She took it hannahfully, and together they walked down the red carpet. Cameras flashed everywhere. Hannah didn't flinch, didn't look nervous. She simply walked beside Gabriel with her head high, a small smile on her face, as if she had done this 1,000 times before. A woman, dripping in gold jewelry, leaned in conspiratorially. My dear, that dress is absolutely stunning. Is it Versace? Gucci? Hannah smiled mysteriously. I'm not sure. I just liked the way it made me feel. The vague, elegant answers only made people more intrigued. Who was this mystery woman? Where did she come from? How did Gabriel know her? Gabriel and Hannah found their assigned table, table 7, near the middle of the hall. As they sat down, more eyes turned toward them. Hannah remained perfectly composed, her hands folded elegantly on her lap, her face calm. An older couple at their table immediately introduced themselves. "Good afternoon, I'm Senator Adeyemi, and this is my wife, Mrs. Adeyemi." "Gabriel Thompson," Gabriel said, shaking their hands. "And this is Hannah." Mrs. Adeyemi, a woman in her 60s, with sharp, intelligent eyes, studied Hannah carefully. "My dear, you carry yourself like someone from a good family. Where are your people from?" Hannah smiled politely. "Lagos, ma, born and raised. And how do you know Gabriel?" "We met recently, but it feels like we've known each other much longer." Senator Adeyemi chuckled. "Ah, young love, that's how it always feels at the beginning. You two make a beautiful couple." Gabriel and Hannah exchanged a quick glance, but didn't correct him. The music changed. Everyone stood as the bridal procession began. Bridesmaids in gold dresses walked down the aisle, followed by flower girls scattering rose petals. Then Jessica appeared. She wore a massive wedding gown covered in crystals and pearls, the skirt so wide it filled half the aisle. A diamond tiara sat on her styled hair, her makeup was dramatic, heavy foundation, bold eyes, bright red lips. The crowd gasped and applauded. Jessica smiled widely and began walking down the aisle, clearly enjoying the attention. But then her eyes swept across the room and landed on Gabriel's table. Her gaze locked onto Gabriel and her smile faltered. Then she saw Hannah. Jessica's face went completely white, her mouth opened in shock, eyes widening with what looked like recognition and fear. She stopped walking for 2 full seconds, staring at Hannah. "Keep moving. Everyone's watching," the wedding planner whispered urgently. Jessica forced herself to continue, but her hands trembled so badly, her bouquet shook visibly. She kept stealing glances at their table, her smile now forced and fake. Hannah sat perfectly still, her face calm, but her eyes locked onto Jessica with an intensity that made Gabriel's skin prickle. It wasn't anger, it was something deeper, something that spoke of old pain and long-awaited justice. Jessica reached the altar where Kenneth waited in an expensive white suit. The pastor began the ceremony, but Jessica wasn't paying attention. Her eyes kept darting toward Gabriel and Hannah's table. She stumbled over her vows twice, her voice shaky and uncertain. "Are you okay? You seem distracted," Kenneth whispered during the ring exchange. "I'm fine," Jessica hissed back, but she was definitely not fine. The wedding kiss was quick and awkward, nothing like what a bride should give her new husband. Then Jessica appeared, walking toward them with forced confidence. She had changed out of her massive wedding gown into a gold cocktail dress that sparkled under the lights. Kenneth was beside her, his hand on her waist, but Jessica's face was tight with anxiety. "Gabriel," Jessica said, her voice overly sweet and fake, "thank you so much for coming. It really means a lot to me." Gabriel stood and nodded politely. "Congratulations, Jessica. You look beautiful." Jessica's smile was tight. "Thank you." Her eyes moved to Hannah, and Gabriel saw her face go pale again. "And who is this lovely lady?" "I don't think we've been introduced." Hannah stood slowly, Hannahfully. She was slightly taller than Jessica in her heels. She met Jessica's gaze directly, unflinching. "I'm Hannah." Jessica stared at her, and Gabriel could see her mind working, trying to place the face. Have we met before? You look so familiar." Hannah tilted her head slightly, her voice soft but pointed. "Perhaps. Lagos is a small world for some of us. People cross paths in unexpected places." Jessica's breathing quickened, her hands clenched at her sides. I don't think so. I would remember meeting someone like you." "Would you?" Hannah asked, her voice still calm but with an edge now. "People often forget faces when it's convenient for them, when remembering would be uncomfortable." Kenneth, sensing the strange tension, stepped forward. "I'm Kenneth, the groom." "It's nice to meet you, Hannah. How do you know Gabriel?" Hannah finally broke eye contact with Jessica and looked at Kenneth. Her voice softened slightly. "We met recently. Gabriel has been very kind to me." Jessica grabbed Kenneth's arm tightly. "We should go greet other guests. There are so many people waiting to congratulate us." "But we just got here," Kenneth started. Now, Kenneth, we need to go now. Jessica's voice was urgent, almost panicked. She practically dragged Kenneth away, nearly stumbling in her heels. Kenneth looked back at Gabriel and Hannah with confusion written all over his face. Gabriel turned to Hannah. What was that about? She clearly recognized you. Hannah sat back down, her face unreadable. Nothing. Let's enjoy the food. But Gabriel couldn't shake the feeling that something big was brewing beneath the surface. The reception continued with speeches from the groom's father, the bride's mother, the best man. But through it all, Jessica seemed increasingly distracted and anxious. She kept looking toward Gabriel and Hannah's table, her smile growing more forced with each passing minute. Kenneth noticed his bride's behavior during their first dance. As they swayed to a romantic song, he leaned close to her ear. Jessica, what is going on? You've been acting strange since the ceremony. That woman with Gabriel, who is she? Why does she make you so nervous? Jessica's eyes filled with panic. That woman, Kenneth, I think she's someone from my past, someone I thought I'd never see again. Kenneth frowned, concerned. What do you mean? Who is she? I can't talk about it here. Not now, not in front of everyone. Jessica, you're my wife now. You need to tell me what's going on. But before Jessica could answer, the MC tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have the bride and groom at the front for their thank you speech? Jessica walked to the microphone on shaky legs. Kenneth stood beside her, his face confused and concerned. Jessica gripped the microphone stand with trembling hands. Thank you all so much for coming to celebrate with us today, Jessica began, her voice unsteady. This day means everything to me. I've worked so hard to get here, to build the life I have now, to finally have everything I ever built. A clear, strong voice interrupted from the crowd. The entire hall fell into stunned silence. Every head turned. Hannah was standing at her table, her face calm but her eyes burning with intensity. You built your life, Hannah repeated, louder this time, her voice carrying across the entire hall. Tell them how you built it, Jessica. Tell everyone here the truth about how you got where you are today. The hall erupted in confused whispers. Jessica's face turned white as a ghost. Her hands began shaking so violently that the microphone rattled. I don't know what you're talking about, Jessica stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Hannah took a step forward, her voice growing stronger, more powerful. Don't you? Let me remind you then, 3 years ago I worked as a private caregiver for your grandmother, Mrs. Helen Moore. Does that name ring a bell? Gasps filled the room, people started murmuring loudly. Jessica's legs looked like they might give out. Hannah continued, her voice clear and steady now. Mrs. Helen was a wonderful woman, kind, generous, loving. She was also very wealthy. And she was very alone because her only granddaughter, you, Jessica, had abandoned her for years. You didn't visit, didn't call, didn't care. Not until you heard she was sick and dying. That's not true, Jessica shouted, but her voice cracked. She's lying. Don't listen to her. Am I lying? Hannah asked calmly. Mrs. Helen loved me like the daughter she never had. I cared for her every single day. I fed her when she couldn't feed herself. I bathed her when she was too weak. I read to her, talked to her, held her hand when she was in pain. And you know what she told me? The room was dead silent now, everyone leaning forward, hanging on every word. She told me she was going to include me in her will. Not all her money, just enough to help me start my own caregiving business, maybe buy a small apartment. She wanted to give me a future because I had given her dignity in her final days. Jessica's face crumbled. Tears started streaming down her cheeks, smudging her perfect makeup. Hannah's voice grew harder. But then you found out. You came rushing back, pretending to care about your grandmother. And when you saw how close we had become, when you realized she might actually leave me something, you couldn't stand it, so you destroyed me. No, I didn't. Jessica started. Yes, you did. Hannah's voice rose, emotion breaking through her calm facade. You accused me of stealing your grandmother's jewelry. You said I was poisoning her medication. You called the police right in front of her, had me dragged out of that house like a criminal. You destroyed my reputation so completely that no one would hire me, not as a caregiver, not as anything. Kenneth stepped away from Jessica, staring at his new wife with horror and disbelief. "Jessica, what is she talking about?" Hannah reached into her clutch bag and pulled out a small envelope. "I have proof. Letters that Mrs. Helen wrote me before she died. Medical reports showing there was never any poison. Witness statements from nurses who worked in that house. Financial records showing how you manipulated your grandmother's accounts." Gabriel stood up and walked to Hannah. She handed him the envelope. He opened it and began reading aloud one of the letters in a clear, strong voice. "My dearest Hannah, I know what my granddaughter is doing. I know she wants you gone because she fears losing her inheritance to someone she thinks is an outsider. But I want you to know something. You are more family to me than she ever was. You cared for me when I was alone and afraid. Keep these letters safe. One day the truth will come out, and you will need proof." The crowd exploded in shocked murmurs and exclamations. Someone shouted from the back, "Call the police. This is elder abuse." Another voice joined in, "Inheritance fraud. She should be arrested." More people pulling out their phones, recording everything, already posting videos to Instagram and Twitter. Within seconds, the scandal was going viral. Jessica looked around wildly, tears and mascara running down her face. "You're trying to ruin my wedding. You're jealous because you have nothing, and I have everything." Hannah's voice was cold now, all pretense of calm gone. "I have nothing because you took everything from me, Jessica. You made me homeless. You made me sleep on streets, go hungry for days, fear for my life every single night. All because you wanted your grandmother's money for yourself." Kenneth grabbed Jessica's arm. "Tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't do this." Jessica opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her silence was all the answer anyone needed. Within minutes, security was called. The police arrived shortly after. They questioned Hannah, examined the documents, took statements from several guests who remembered the scandal from 3 years ago, but had believed Jessica's version of events. Jessica tried to run, but security guards blocked every exit. She collapsed onto the floor in her expensive gold dress, sobbing hysterically, her perfect wedding destroyed, her lies exposed to everyone who mattered. Kenneth stood frozen, watching the woman he had just married being questioned by police. His face was pale with shock and betrayal. The officers approached Jessica with handcuffs. "Mrs. Okafor, you're being arrested on charges of elder abuse, inheritance fraud, defamation, and falsification of medical documents. You have the right to remain silent." As they led Jessica away, she looked back at Hannah one last time. Their eyes met across the ruined wedding hall. "I'm sorry," Jessica whispered, her voice broken. "I'm so sorry." But Hannah didn't respond. She just watched silently as justice finally caught up with the woman who had destroyed her life. The wedding hall that had been filled with celebration just hours ago now felt like a crime scene. Guests stood in shocked clusters, whispering, recording videos on their phones, trying to process what they had just witnessed. The beautiful decorations, the white roses, the gold ribbons, the crystal chandeliers, now seemed like a mockery of what this day was supposed to be. Jessica sat in a chair near the entrance, handcuffed, her gold dress wrinkled and stained with tears and mascara. 2 police officers stood on either side of her. She looked completely broken, nothing like the confident bride who had walked down the aisle just hours before. Kenneth stood several feet away, staring at his new wife as if seeing her for the first time. His best man, a tall man named Chidi, placed a hand on Kenneth's shoulder. "Guy, I'm so sorry," Chidi said quietly. I don't even have words." Kenneth's voice was hollow, empty. I married her less than 3 hours ago. How did I not know? How did I not see who she really was? She fooled everyone, man. Don't blame yourself." But Kenneth shook his head slowly. There were signs. Small things, the way she never wanted to talk about her grandmother, how she always changed the subject when her family came up. I thought she was just private. I didn't realize she was hiding something like this. Gabriel and Hannah stood together near their table, watching everything unfold. Hannah's face was pale but composed. Her hands were steady now, though Gabriel could see the slight tremor in her fingers when she thought no one was looking. "Are you okay?" Gabriel asked quietly. Hannah nodded slowly. "I'm fine. I've been waiting 3 years for this moment. Now that it's here, I don't know how to feel. You should feel proud. You told the truth. You stood up for yourself. Hannah looked at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Then why do I feel so empty? Before Gabriel could respond, one of the police officers approached them. He was an older man, probably in his 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Inspector Okafor led Hannah to a quiet sitting room. "Tell me everything that happened 3 years ago." Hannah took a deep breath. "I got the job as Mrs. Helen Moore's caregiver through a reputable agency. She was alone, suffering from diabetes and heart problems. She was the kindest woman I ever met." "And Jessica?" "She appeared 6 months after I started. Mrs. Helen hadn't seen her in over 2 years. Jessica only visited when she needed money, get a check and leave. Never helped with actual care. When did things change? Mrs. Helen told me she was updating her will, wanted to leave me something to start my business. 2 days later, Jessica came crying, saying her grandmother's diamond necklace was missing. She accused me of stealing it. What happened? Police searched my room and found the necklace in my drawer. I never put it there. Jessica planted it. Then she accused me of poisoning Mrs. Helen's medication." Inspector Okafor looked up sharply. "Very serious accusation." "I know, but tests showed nothing except prescribed medications. They released me, but the agency fired me. My reputation was destroyed." "And Mrs. Helen?" Tears rolled down Hannah's cheeks. "Jessica blocked all contact. Mrs. Helen died 2 months later. I wasn't allowed at her funeral." "How did you end up homeless?" "No one would hire me after the police report. I ran out of money, lost my apartment, no family to turn to." Inspector Okafor nodded. "The documents you provided are strong evidence. We'll investigate Jessica Moore Okafor fully. She'll face charges for elder abuse, inheritance fraud, and defamation." "Will my name be cleared?" "Yes, officially. I'll make sure of it." "The marriage is over, Jessica," Kenneth said flatly. "I'll be filing for annulment Monday morning. I want nothing from you except distance." Jessica's sobs grew louder as they took her away. Guests parted to let them through, many recording on their phones. By tomorrow, this scandal would be all over Nigerian social media. When Hannah emerged, she looked exhausted but relieved. Gabriel was waiting, and she walked straight into his arms. He held her tightly while she finally let herself cry, tears of release, of justice, of 3 years of pain finally acknowledged. "It's over," Gabriel whispered. "It's finally over." Kenneth approached them, his face heavy with regret. "Hannah, I owe you an apology. I had no idea what she did to you." "You didn't know because she didn't want you to know," Hannah said gently. "That's what manipulators do." "Is there anything I can do?" "I have money, connections, influence." Hannah shook her head. "I don't need your money. I just needed the truth to come out." And it has. Gabriel's driver brought the car around. They drove away in silence, Hannah staring out at Lagos passing by. "Gabriel," Hannah said quietly. "Yes. Thank you for everything, for seeing me when I was invisible, for giving me this chance." Gabriel took her hand. "You would have found a way to the truth eventually. You're too strong to stay defeated forever." They arrived back at Gabriel's mansion. Mrs. Adebayo rushed over. "I've been seeing everything on social media. Are you both okay?" Hannah managed a small smile. "We're okay. Just tired." Over dinner, Gabriel asked, "So what happens now?" Hannah thought for a moment. "Now I rebuild. I'll work with the police to clear my name officially. Then I'll start over, find work, find a place to live, find myself again." "You're not going back to the streets," Gabriel said firmly. "You'll stay here until you're ready to move out." No arguments. Tears filled Hannah's eyes. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Gabriel chose his words carefully. "Because in you, I see what I could have become." "We're not that different, Hannah. We both fought our way up from nothing. The only difference is luck and timing." That night, as Hannah lay in bed, she thought about everything. 3 years ago, Jessica had taken everything from her. Hannah had spent 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days counting every painful moment, wondering if justice would ever come. And today, finally, it had. But Hannah realized something important. Today wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. It was about making sure what happened to her was acknowledged, witnessed by others. Justice didn't always mean punishment. Sometimes it just meant being believed. And for the first time in 3 years, Hannah fell asleep feeling truly safe. The weeks following the wedding scandal moved like a whirlwind. Jessica's arrest became Lagos's biggest story. Headlines screamed, "Wedding day exposed, bride arrested for elder abuse." Inspector Okafor called 2 weeks later. "Hannah, the investigation is complete. Jessica has been formally charged with elder abuse, inheritance fraud, defamation, and perjury. And your record? Completely cleared. Officially. You can work again." Hannah sat in Gabriel's living room and cried tears of relief. It was finally over. "What will you do now?" Gabriel asked softly. "I want to work again. I want to be a caregiver again. It's who I am." Over the next month, Gabriel helped Hannah rebuild completely. His lawyers helped her sue the agency that fired her without investigation. The settlement gave her financial security. Gabriel connected her with a caregiving certification program. Within 6 weeks, Hannah earned her advanced certification. But something else was happening. They were falling in love. It started small, long conversations late at night about dreams and fears. Gabriel coming home to find Hannah cooking with Mrs. Adebayo, both laughing like old friends. The way Hannah actually listened when Gabriel talked about his day. 2 months after the wedding, Gabriel found Hannah on his balcony, looking at the Lagos skyline. He joined her with 2 glasses of wine. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. Hannah smiled. "How different my life is. 3 months ago, I was sleeping on concrete. Now I'm here, my name cleared, my future open." "You deserve all of it," Gabriel said. Hannah turned to him. "That day you found me. Why did you really stop?" Gabriel was quiet. "When I saw you refusing to beg, refusing to break despite having nothing, I saw strength I hadn't seen in anyone in years. You had nothing, but you still had dignity. That's rare, Hannah. That's precious. You gave me my life back." "No," Gabriel said firmly, "you gave yourself your life back. You kept those letters for 3 years. You waited for justice. You stood up and told your truth. I just gave you a ride." Hannah took his hand. "Then thank you for believing me when everyone else called me a liar." Gabriel looked at their joined hands. "Hannah, I think I'm falling in love with you." Hannah's breath caught. "I'm falling in love with you too. But I'm scared. I have nothing to offer." "You're not starting from zero," Gabriel interrupted. "You're starting from strength, from survival, from truth. That's worth more than anything money can buy." He pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small diamond. "A promise ring," Gabriel said. "A promise that we'll build something real together, that you'll never face the world alone again." "Yes," Hannah whispered. "Yes, I want us." 6 months later, Hannah had her own apartment and worked as a senior caregiver, earning a reputation for excellence. But most nights, she stayed at Gabriel's house. It felt like home. One evening, Hannah returned from the hospital with news. "Gabriel, I'm pregnant, with twins." Gabriel's face broke into the biggest smile. "We're having babies." He knelt before her. "Hannah, will you marry me? Will you build a family with me?" "Yes, yes to everything." 3 months later, they married in Gabriel's garden, a small, intimate ceremony with close friends. 4 months later, Hannah gave birth to healthy twins, a boy named Gabriel Jr. and a girl named Helen after Mrs. Moore. As Gabriel held his children, looking at Hannah glowing in the hospital bed, he whispered, "We made it." Hannah smiled. "We did. Together." This story teaches us that truth always finds its way to the surface, no matter how deeply someone tries to bury it. It reminds us that real strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising every time life knocks you down. Hannah didn't need Gabriel to save her. She needed someone to believe in her, and that made all the difference. To my amazing audience, what did you learn from this story? Have you ever witnessed someone rise from nothing to reclaim their dignity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up to let me know, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss the next interesting upload. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in my next story.